Chapter 1821. He didn't think that Luo Qintong would be able to draw the other party's attack over. Although it was only a slight deviation, with him here, both of them would be fine. Unless his protective barrier's time was up. Otherwise, these three people wouldn't be able to hurt him and Luo Qintong. He could only hope that Deep Venerable could arrive before then. Otherwise, he and evil Dr. Brat would be in deep trouble. As the highest dean was thinking this, somewhere deep within the space at the bottom of the cliff, Yi Qianqian's figure floated in the air. Silver clothes, black hair, golden robes. The man opened his hands and a powerful aura spread out, sinking into the space crack in front of him. This space crack was just as Yi Qianxian had thought, it had been artificially torn open. Yi Qianxian could feel an aura that didn't belong to the true Spill continent or the hidden world. Was it someone from the outer realms? Or perhaps, someone of an even higher level? Yi Qianxian's eyes narrowed. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to distinguish this aura, but that didn't mean he couldn't. Yi Qianxian was born with the heavenly vein body. His strength had already grown to a terrifying degree. The aura left behind in this space crack was clearly an extremely high level of strength. How could such a force exist in the true Spill continent? Moreover, he didn't know anything about it. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. His divine sense and strength followed the remnant aura of this force, trying to trace the other party's whereabouts after opening this space crack. However, just as his aura submerged into this space crack and he was about to catch a trace of the other party's tail, an urgent voice sounded out from behind him. Yi Qianxian, hurry. Hurry to the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. 3 Saint Kings from Celestial Palace are surrounding Qintong. As this voice sounded out, Yi Qianxian and Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others who were standing guard nearby were all shocked. Qintong. Yi Qianren's eyes froze. In just an instant, he raised his hands and put them together. With a swoosh, the spatial crack was closed by him. Then, his figure suddenly flashed and disappeared into the air. Hey, wait for me. That bastard. Yu Sihuang anxiously said. He told Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others to protect Grandfather Luo and the others. Then, he quickly rushed to the edge of the space at the bottom of the cliff. Bang! Outside the space at the bottom of the cliff, Luo Qintong and the highest Supreme Dean, they were resisting the attacks of the 3 people from Celestial Palace. The 3 people from the Celestial Supreme Palace refused to give up and continued to attack Luo Qintong, Ts Qing Ts. But in fact, Luo Qintong really did it. Their attacks were diverted in different ways, and all of them fell on the body of the Grand Supreme Dean, who was constantly moving around beside Luo Qintong, and were blocked by the other party. However, as one attack after another blasted out, Luo Qintong's strength was somewhat depleted. Furthermore, the eye technique in her eyes was being used up too quickly, and her mental power was almost depleted. It should be known that once they lost the power of their eye sorcery, Luo Qintong and the Grand Supreme Dean would be in an extremely passive position when facing the 3 Celestial Palace experts. Chapter 1822. Translations. With a snap, a slight cracking sound could be heard from the reddish gold barrier on the body of the Grand Principal beside her. Oh no! The Grand Supreme Dean's eyes suddenly widened. Oh no, the barrier had consumed too much energy previously. It was going to end early. In fact, if Luo Qintong had not used her eye technique to hold on for so long, the barrier would have been broken by the previous attacks. Seeing the reddish gold barrier disappear, the 3 Celestial Palace protectors, who were originally furious and frantic, suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. Good, good, good. Your tortoise shell is finally broken. Trash, let's see how you die. As they spoke, they directly attacked the Grand Supreme Dean. Previously, because of the reddish gold barrier around him, the 3 people's attacks were not aimed at him. They were all directed at Luo Qintong. Now, they would see how he died. The master at the peak of the Saint King realm directly attacked the Supreme Dean. The other two upper-level Saint King powerhouses attacked Luo Qintong. This time, they wanted to see how the other party could block it. Previously, she could use the Grand Supreme Dean to block their attacks. Now, if she led the attack to him again, the other party could only wait for death. Of course, it did not matter if she did not lead the attack, the other party would still die. The group of people hated the Grand Supreme Dean in their hearts. If it were not for him, they might have already captured Luo Qintong. There would not be so much trouble. They were also embarrassed by the other party. Fortunately, there was no one else here. Otherwise, if others saw that the three Saint King powerhouses were led by the nose by a young girl who had just entered the Holy Lord realm, they would probably laugh their heads off. The three people's attacks did not leave any leeway. In an instant, they blasted in front of Luo Qintong and the Grand Supreme Dean. The blood-red light in Luo Qintong's eyes flickered violently. In the next second, the blood-red light in her eyes shattered. Under the intense consumption, the mental strength in her mind was exhausted, and her eye technique was temporarily deactivated. Boom! The light in Luo Qintong's eyes was hollow. Her figure flitted past the two incoming attacks and appeared in front of the Grand Supreme Dean. Bang! The sword light in her hand swung out and collided with the attack coming at the Grand Supreme Dean. In an instant, Luo Qintong spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body was blown away by the aftermath of the collision between the two attacks. Evil Dr. Kid. Seeing this, the Grand Supreme Headmaster was greatly alarmed and hurriedly wanted to rush over. However, in front of him, another superior Saint King from Celestial Palace had already rushed toward Luo Qintong. Humph! Slut, you're finally going to fall into our hands. Looking at the young girl who was retreating, the superior Sage King Realm Protector of the Celestial Supreme Palace sneered and grabbed at Luo Qintong. The attack in his hand was piercingly cold. It was obvious that he wanted to seriously injure Luo Qintong and capture her. Seeing that the hand was about to land on Luo Qintong's body and the sharp light on it was about to blast Luo Qintong, boom! At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Luo Qintong. One hand supported Luo Qintong's slender waist, and in the next second, bang! Chapter 1823. Ming Zun. Seeing Yi Qianxian appear beside Luo Qintong, the Grand Supreme Dean's expression changed from one of anxiety to one of joy. Yi Qianxian stood beside Luo Qintong, hovering in the air. His eyes were chilling to the bone. The dark golden mask that covered his face seemed to have a flowing light flowing through it. His gaze swept across the bloodstain at the corner of the lips of the girl in his arms. In an instant, the raging flames within him were about to erupt like a volcano ambushed under a glacier. This woman was actually injured in front of him. These people from Celestial Palace must all die. He looked at the protector of Celestial Palace in front of him. The protector was startled when his hand was caught in his grasp. The man's aura was monstrous. Enveloped by the man's aura, the protector could not even control the flow of the aura within his body. It was as if he had been frozen. His hand was caught in Yi Qianxian's grasp, and he could not move at all. The strength of an upper-level Saint King seemed to be of no use in front of this man. The Celestial Palace protector was aghast. He looked at Yi Qianxian and shouted sternly, "Who are you?" "We are from Celestial Palace." Before he could finish his words, Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. He had already broken the protector's hand. Crack, crack, crack. The crisp sound of bones cracking extended from the place where Yi Qianxian held the protector's hand. In the blink of an eye, the bones of the Celestial Palace protector were shattered into pieces. Not only that, but his head also exploded in an instant, turning into fragments. Boom! With a flick of Yi Qianqian's hand, the celestial palace protector's body was smashed to the ground. Yi Qianxian raised his cold eyes and stared at the other two celestial palace protectors not far away. Celestial Palace. The man's thin lips opened slightly, and his voice was low, containing infinite killing intent. The two celestial palace protectors felt as though they had been splashed with a bucket of ice water when he stared at them. From the beginning to the end, it was completely cold. How could there be such a powerhouse in the true Spill continent? The strength of the other party made them tremble from the bottom of their hearts. Just being stared at by him made him feel like he was suffocating. The two of them were Saint Kings, especially high-class Saint Kings and Peak Saint Kings. Even the celestial Peak Palace Master had never given them such a feeling. What realm was the other party at? A Holy Spirit or a Holy Venerable? The two of them were horrified. They exchanged glances, and when Yi Qianxian raised his head to look at them, they abruptly leaped into the air. Split up. Return to the hidden world. Spread the news. Their figures flashed to the left and right, each in two different directions to avoid being chased by Yi Qianxian. However, as soon as they moved, a voice rang out. Boom! Yi Qianxian waved his sleeve, and in an instant, a powerful and terrifying force completely enveloped them. This force was so strong that they simply could not resist it. The two of them were horrified to the extreme. Their figures were frozen in midair, just as they were about to leave. At this time, they finally knew that Yi Qianren's strength was so strong that it was hard for them to estimate. Chapter 1824. When they thought of this, they were even more shocked. What made them even more shocked and incredulous was that they had never heard of anything related to Yi Qianren in the hidden world. It had to be known that most powerhouses of the outer realms would have to pass through the hidden world if they wanted to descend to the true Spill continent. With their strength, even if they didn't know much, they should still be able to gather some information about this person. But they had never heard of anything related to Yi Qianxian. It was as if he had never appeared. What did this mean? It meant that this person's strength was enough to cross the hidden world that was the barrier and gateway between the outer realms and the true Spill continent, and directly appear in the true Spill continent. If this was true, then this person's strength might be above their imaginations. After all, for an existence as powerful as the Star Alliance, the majority of powerhouses still had to rely on the hidden world to enter the true Spill continent. This man's strength, just how formidable was he? And the young girl that he was protecting in his arms, the two people's eyes turned to Luo Qingtong. They watched as she wiped the blood from her lips and coldly glared at them. Her eyes were filled with a murderous and bloodthirsty intent. Domineering and enchanting, stunning beyond compare. In an instant, their vision darkened. They had actually offended such a young girl, and the person behind her was someone that even the entire hidden world combined couldn't resist. The two celestial palace protectors felt waves of dizziness pass through their minds. They nearly fainted. If they knew that not only was Luo Qingtong's talent extraordinary and monstrous, but she also had a powerhouse like Yi Qianxian protecting her, they absolutely wouldn't have appeared to deal with her. But now, it was too late to say anything. As for the highest dean, he was even more surprised. He looked at Yi Qianxian. He didn't think that his strength would be far greater than what he had imagined. This person's origins were mysterious and unfathomable. A long time ago, he had already guessed that this person might be someone from the outer realms. Now, he had only confirmed this. This underworld revered indeed had an extraordinary origin. As the Grand Supreme Dean thought this, on the other side, the two celestial palace protectors were already screaming miserably. Previously, when they wanted to kill and capture the Grand Principal and Luo Qingtong, their momentum was so arrogant and domineering, and they were insufferably arrogant. At this moment, he was screaming like a ghost. Where was the imposing manner and valiance from before? He was begging for mercy like a drowned rat. Under their feet, beams of power were eroding and destroying their bodies, turning their flesh and bones into ashes inch by inch. It looked as if his entire body had been ground to dust from his feet to his head. Yi Qianqian's eyes were cold. He deliberately controlled his strength so that they would be reduced to ashes bit by bit during the extremely painful process. No, we were wrong. I beg you, please spare us. The two celestial palace protectors cried bitterly and begged for mercy. They couldn't bear such pain anymore. But Yi Qianqian's eyes didn't show the slightest bit of emotion. He was in a high position and held great power. He had seen this kind of attitude that changed from arrogance to deference. If he didn't have this kind of strength, would they beg for mercy? Chapter 1825. Thinking of the trace of blood at the corner of Luo Qingtong's lips just now, Yi Qianqian's eyes turned cold, and he became even more ruthless. With his strength, if he had not been so angry that he deliberately tortured these two people, how could he have let them live until now? He could have killed them with a raise of his hand. Just like the Upper Saint King Realm Celestial Palace Protector from before. The cries of the two Celestial Palace powerhouses became more and more shrill. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Where did you get this thing? She raised her hand and took something from the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse. It was a pendant-like spirit artifact, flashing with light, trying to block Yi Qianqian's attack. These two Celestial Palace powerhouses had many such spirit artifacts, but they were completely useless against Yi Qianqian's attack. The reason why Luo Qingtong noticed this pendant was because it looked exactly the same as something on her body. Swish! Luo Qingtong raised her hand and pulled the pendant hanging around her neck. The two pendants were placed side by side, and they were exactly the same. The only difference was that the pendant hanging around Luo Qingtong's neck was much more exquisite, and its aura looked much more simple and profound. But other than that, the two pendants looked the same. Even the patterns and veins on them were exactly the same. Obviously, the pendant on the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse was a replica of the pendant on Luo Qingtong's neck. And the pendant on Luo Qingtong's neck was one of the betrothal tokens between her and Yuan Mo. Her piece was left behind by Luo Jinghong. The pendant on the other party's neck was exactly the same as hers. It was obvious that someone had seen her pendant before and had copied it accordingly. Luo Qingtong's eyes were sharp. And Yi Qianxian had already stopped attacking the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse when Luo Qingtong took the pendant from his neck. The other party still had half of his body left. And the other Celestial Palace Protector of the Upper Saint King Realm had long been turned into ashes by Yi Qianqian's corrosive light. Where did you get this pendant? Have you heard of Luo Jinghong? Luo Qingtong asked the Peak Saint King Realm powerhouse who was struggling in pain. Tell me what you know, and I'll let you die quickly. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear what I'm going to do next. With the various interrogation techniques that Luo Qingtong knew in her previous life in the 24th century, the pain that this Peak Saint King would have to endure would be 100 times worse than what she was experiencing now. It's best not to challenge her patience. As for Luo Qingtong, she never bothered to negotiate terms and compromise with her enemies. If the other party dared to use this to threaten her, then she would definitely let the other party know what it was like to live a life worse than death. Hearing this, the Peak Saint King Realm Master's body trembled violently. He did want to use this to threaten Luo Qingtong to let him go. But now that Luo Qingtong said this, he instantly gave up this idea in despair. After all, for Yi Qianxian, it was too easy to make him live a life worse than death. He couldn't threaten the other party at all, so he might as well say it out loud. I'll talk. As he spoke, he told her about the pendant. It turned out that he had picked up this pendant. Chapter 1826. Because he saw that the pendant style was good and its grade was not low, he took it with him. As for that person's name, He did not know, nor did he know if it was the person Luo Qingtong was looking for. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Beast Taming King Valley. This matter was actually related to that place. Luo Qingtong had been paying attention to this Peak Saint King Realm Master, so she could naturally see that the other party was not lying. In other words, the person being chased by Beast Taming King Valley was most likely Luo Jinghong. Even if it was not, she was afraid that it had something to do with him. Otherwise, there would never be a replica of the pendant on her. While Luo Qingtong was thinking, Yi Qianxian had already raised his hand and killed the Peak Saint King Realm Master who kept begging for mercy. He looked down at Luo Qingtong. The anger in his eyes had not completely disappeared. This woman had asked clearly what she wanted to ask. Was it his turn now? Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. When he tore space to come, he saw Luo Qingtong blocking in front of the Grand Principal through the vibrating space ripples. This woman actually dared to put herself in danger. Luo, Qi. His voice was dangerous. Luo Qingtong was thinking about something at this moment, but suddenly heard Yi Qianxian's voice that seemed to contain infinite anger, and she suddenly had an idea. She came back to her senses and looked at the suppressed anger in the man's eyes. In a flash, she probably thought of the reason. In an instant, she held her forehead. Oh, why is my head so dizzy? As she spoke, she fell into Yi Qianxian's arms. Of course, as she pretended to faint. It was better than this man settling accounts with her in anger, right? In fact, she was only slightly injured. When she blocked in front of the Grand Principal, the sword had already dissipated most of the attack power. The aftermath of the attack did not hurt her deeply. But this man most likely would not listen to her explanation. Luo Qingtong thought about it and decided to pretend to faint. It was better to make this man feel distressed than to make him angry. It was easy to get wrinkles when you were angry. She was doing this for his own good. Luo Qingtong was lying in Yi Qianxian's arms. She felt the man's arm tighten, and then he rushed out. She stuck out her tongue in her heart. It was quite fun to be mischievous once in a while. This feeling of being cared for and protected by others was really not bad. Luo Qingtong leaned against Yi Qianxian's chest and rested her head on his chest. Unknowingly, she fell asleep amidst his steady heartbeat. She had expended a lot of energy this time. First, she had fought the Breeze Pavilion Master, then she had fought the people of Celestial Palace. She had almost exhausted all of her strength. Not to mention that she had already used up all of her mental strength. Now that she was in Yi Qianxian's arms, she knew that she was safe. She wasn't afraid that the man would come to settle the score with her, so she immediately fell asleep. This was something that was hard to imagine in the past. At least before she transmigrated and met Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong had never thought that she would one day fall asleep in a man's arms after expending all of her energy in a great battle. Usually, she would find a secluded and hidden place to recuperate before appearing in front of others. But now, with Yi Qianxian by her side, she didn't seem to need these things. The man would protect her well. Chapter 1827. Luo Qingtong slept for close to an entire day. She was prepared to pretend to faint and then go back to Yuhuang City and pretend that she was fine after waking up. This way, she would be able to get away from Yi Qianxian's anger and they wouldn't be too worried. However, she didn't expect that because she was too tired and Yi Qianxian's embrace was too warm and safe, she unknowingly fell asleep. When she woke up, she found that her surroundings were in chaos. Old Man Luo, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the people from Tianxia were all surrounding her, filling up the entire room she was in. They were all looking at her with red eyes. As for Su Xiaoxiao, when she saw that she had woken up, she almost burst into tears. "Boss, you're finally awake." Ever since Su Xiaoxiao decided to be Luo Qingtong's personal combat alchemist, her crybaby personality changed a lot. She was showing signs of going back to her original self. Luo Qingtong looked at her eyes that were as red as a rabbit's from crying and then looked at the people surrounding her. Her mind instantly went blank. Then she remembered that she had pretended to faint yesterday and then she pretended to fall asleep. So, did they all think that something had happened to her? Luo Qingtong thought about it and her lips instantly twitched. Damn, this was a big misunderstanding. She was thinking about it when she suddenly heard a hoarse voice. All right, she's fine now. You guys can leave first. Following this voice, Luo Qingtong turned around and saw Yi Qianxian sitting not too far away from her bed. The man's appearance didn't change much from before, but his eyes were bloodshot. It was obvious that he had been watching over her for a long time. Seeing her look over, Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent, but the hand holding Luo Qingtong's hand slightly tightened. Everyone nodded and left when they heard this. They were relieved that Luo Qingtong woke up and was fine. A group of people was indeed not conducive to Luo Qingtong's cultivation. With that thought in mind, everyone got up and left. Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi reminded Luo Qingtong to have a good rest and not worry about other things. After that, they also left. Luo Qingtong laughed dryly in response. This time, she had no choice but to pretend to be sick. Oh my god, I've gone too far. Soon, only Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian were left in the room. She peeked at Yi Qianxian's expression, wondering if he had noticed that she had pretended to faint. Was this the calm before the storm, or had he not noticed? As Luo Qingtong was thinking, Yi Qianxian stood up. Hungry? He looked at Luo Qingtong. No, Luo Qingtong was about to say that she wasn't hungry, but her stomach growled at this moment. Luo Qingtong looked at her disappointing stomach. At this time, the enemy's situation was unknown, so why was she growling? However, she had slept for almost a day, so she was indeed hungry. Cough. I'm hungry. Luo Qingtong nodded. Yi Qianxian responded and then walked out. Luo Qingtong looked at his back and blinked. This man was so calm. He shouldn't have exposed himself, right? Chapter 1828. No matter what, since she had been misunderstood, she had to pretend to be sick for a few days. Otherwise, after causing so many people to worry for so long, it would be strange if she wasn't hunted down collectively. Not to mention anything else, she couldn't get past Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi. If they found out that she had pretended to faint, they would hate her to death. Not to mention that there was also Yi Qianxian. Luo Qingtong thought so and the corners of her lips twitched even more. At this moment, Yi Qianxian walked in from outside. The man was holding a bowl of porridge in his hand. Luo Qingtong looked at the pale white porridge that was useless except for rice grains. She suddenly felt that even if she only pretended to be sick for a few days, it would be miserable. So she could only eat this during this period of time. Luo Qingtong looked at the bowl of porridge with resentment. At this moment, Yi Qianren was already in front of her. He helped her up. Luo Qingtong subconsciously wanted to pick up the bowl of porridge. However, before she could move, Yi Qianxian had already sat beside her. He scooped up a spoonful of porridge, put it to his lips and blew on it. Then, he clumsily fed it to her lips. Yi Qianxian's movements were very unnatural. It was obvious that he had never done such a thing before. The truth was naturally so. With his noble status, who did he need to serve? He didn't even have the chance to look at others. That small white porcelain spoon almost directly poked Luo Qingtong's face and almost knocked her teeth. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian and couldn't come back to her senses. This man was feeding her. However, she was clearly pretending to be dizzy. Her hands weren't broken. Luo Qingtong looked at her hands that had already reached out of the quilt and seriously suspected that there was some kind of brainwave misunderstanding between herself and Yi Qianxian. Qianren, cough. Since she was still pretending to be sick, Luo Qingtong tried to speak in a weak tone. She blinked her eyes and looked at the man in front of her who was still handsome and noble even though he was slightly haggard. She said, "My hand is fine." It would be troublesome if this man thought that she was seriously injured. Luo Qingtong just didn't want him to be angry, but she didn't want him to be too worried. "I know." Yi Qianxian glanced at her. If something happened to her hand, he would not be here right now. He would definitely go to the hidden world and slaughter the entire celestial palace. You've used up too much of your mental energy. You've slept for so long. It'll be troublesome if you don't have any energy left. Let me feed you. This time, when Luo Qingtong fainted, it really scared Yi Qianxian. He still remembered the feeling of the girl falling into his arms. After that, he hurriedly took her back to the imperial city, and she fainted in his arms. That feeling of losing her almost drove Yi Qianren to the brink of insanity. If he hadn't carefully checked that Luo Qingtong's body was fine and that she was just unconscious, he was afraid that he would have lost control of himself long ago. Fortunately, he remembered that Luo Qingtong's mental strength was exhausted. Perhaps that was why she fell into a deep sleep. That was why he had waited patiently for it. Now that he heard Luo Qingtong seriously doubting his intelligence, the veins on his forehead twitched, but he finally suppressed them. This woman's body wasn't good, so he wouldn't argue with her for the time being. She was really restless even when she was injured. Chapter 1829. Open your mouth. Yi Qianxian said. Oh. Luo Qingtong looked at him seriously feeding her and unconsciously opened her mouth. She felt very strange. This was the first time she had been served like this. This feeling of being fed was so strange. It was just that the person feeding her wasn't very skilled. After Luo Qingtong was poked in the tooth by the spoon for the nth time, her face was full of black lines as she thought to herself. However, Yi Qianxian's ability to adapt was very fast. After a few times, he grasped the best distance and strength. After that, Luo Qingtong wasn't poked again. The two of them fed each other, and soon, the bowl of porridge was empty. Luo Qingtong was really hungry. She ate 5 bowls in a row before she felt full. When she wanted to eat the 6th bowl, Yi Qianxian took the bowl away. It's not good to eat too much. His expression was indifferent as he looked at Luo Qingtong and frowned slightly. You just woke up. Rest for a while before you continue eating. As he spoke, he asked someone to bring some fruits for Luo Qingtong to quench her thirst. Luo Qingtong ate the grapes that Yi Qianxian peeled for her and inexplicably couldn't come back to her senses. Yi Qianxian was really gentle like this. Luo Qingtong looked at the man in front of her who was gentle and meticulous. Suddenly, as she blinked and said, I want to be fed by Yin Bao. It was rare for Yi Qianxian to be so easy to talk to. Luo Qingtong felt that she had to take an inch and take a mile. Otherwise, after this incident, she didn't know when the next opportunity would be. Luo Qingtong's words rang out. In an instant, the veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead popped out as he was feeding Luo Qingtong fruit. This woman. No. He said stiffly. The image of the cute little fox was one of his dark histories. It was fine in the past, but now she wanted him to take the initiative to change back. This was impossible. No. Luo Qingtong rolled her eyes and then decisively pretended to be weak. Ah. I suddenly feel a little dizzy. She held her forehead. Luo. Qi. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. He looked at Luo Qingtong holding her forehead. The veins on his forehead popped, but he suppressed them in the end. This woman had just woken up. This time, she had used up too much of her spiritual power. He didn't know if there would be any side effects. He had already sent someone to invite Elder Yu. Before that, he would just let her be. With that thought in mind, Yi Qianqian's face darkened and he didn't say anything else. I'll transform. He squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. With a swoosh, the man released the power that was suppressing the demonic fox blood curse in his body. Soon, after a faint silver light, a furry, round little thing appeared on Yi Qianqian's gold-threaded silver robe and wriggled out. A small silver fox stuck its head out of Yi Qianqian's oversized robe. Then, the 2 little ears fluttered, and the little claws crawled out of the hole, 1 step at a time. Silver treasure. Luo Qingtong saw the little silver fox crawl out of the robe and happily picked it up. Yi Qianxian looked at her happy expression with displeasure. He raised his paw and slapped her face in disgust, telling her to let go of him. Luo Qingtong didn't care at all. She originally thought that after returning from the northern region, she would never see Yi Qianxian turn into a silver fox again. Chapter 1830. She grabbed the silver fox's paw and kissed it. Then, she put it on the long table in front of her and looked at it expectantly. Humph, Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. With a cold face, it raised its paw and pushed the fruit plate in front of Luo Qingtong. Oh whoa! Eat! I want Yin Bao to feed me. Luo Qingtong looked at it with a smile. After the man turned into Yin Bao, his face was full of disdain and arrogance. It was too cute. This was breaking the rules. She heard that the duration of the demon fox blood curse was 3 years. After 3 years, she wouldn't be able to see Yi Qianxian turn into Yin Bao again. She had to work hard to seize the opportunity. Yi Qianxian looked at her with a dark face. The smile on the girl's face was indescribably bright. It made her look full of vitality and a lot better. Thinking that she had just woken up from her coma, Yi Qianxian's temper disappeared. Oh whoa! It raised its paw and walked in front of the fruit plate. There were already diced fruits on it. There were thin bamboo sticks on them. Yi Qianxian used its cute fox paw to fiddle with the bamboo stick, trying to hold it up. Paji! The gap between its paws was too big. It couldn't hold the bamboo stick tightly. In an instant, the diced fruit fell to the ground. However, Luo Qingtong had already put a small bowl in her hand under Yi Qianxian's paw and caught the diced fruit. It's delicious. She ate the diced fruit. Then, she took one to feed Yi Qianxian. The man snorted coldly and ate it. Then, he used his paw to fiddle with another bamboo stick and continued to feed Luo Qingtong fruit. This woman was really a disaster in his life. In the past, he would never have thought that such a disaster would appear in his life. It made him so angry that his teeth itched, but he also loved her to the bone. Yi Qianqian's cute fox face was cold. He was doing something he would never do in the past. The man and the fox fed each other, and soon, the plate of fruits was cleaned out. Bei Qing and Wind Feather, who were standing guard not far away, were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Master actually turned into a silver fox. Bei Qing raised her hand and poked Wind Feather, who was beside her, and asked, "Am I dreaming?" With his master's personality, he actually turned into a silver fox when the evil doctor already knew that he was Yin Bao. Oh my God! Did he see wrongly? You're not dreaming. Feng Yu's lips twitched. Ever since her master fell in love with the evil doctor, she had been lowering her bottom line. In the future, it seemed that he would never return from the path of being a slave to his wife. The scary thing was that his master didn't think that. He still felt that he wasn't indulging the evil doctor. Oh my God, Master, you've already done this, and you still don't call this indulgence. That's right, this can't be called indulgence, this is called extreme adoration. Feather's lips twitched. He was glad that this was the true Spill continent and not the other side, otherwise. Just based on his master's actions, he didn't know how big of a wave it would set off. Thinking of those people who knew that Yi Qianxian had someone he liked, they had never stopped their actions and probing. Feather's heart was very cold. It had been half a year since then. Those people's actions were getting bigger and bigger. Chapter 1831. Those people would find their way here sooner or later. At that time, the existence of the evil doctor would be exposed. He didn't know how much blood he would have to face. Master's identity meant that those who stood by his side would not live a peaceful life. He didn't know if the evil doctor could withstand it. Evil doctor, you have to improve your strength as soon as possible. He secretly said in his heart. After all, those people couldn't deal with Master, so they would inevitably turn their attention to her. The position beside Master wasn't something that ordinary people could stand on. Moreover, she couldn't stand up. Luo Qingtong didn't cultivate in Imperial City for long. After helping Su Yu and the others purify all the immortal jade bones that they had hunted before, she left with Yi Qianxian and went to the hidden world. She wanted to go to beast-taming King Valley to investigate Luo Jinghong. If not, Luo Qingtong would have waited for Su Yu and the others to improve their strength before going to the hidden world together. After all, after the eruption of the aura in the land of the fallen immortals, it would be a month before the aura in the land of the fallen immortals weakened. At that time, it would be the best time to enter the land of the fallen immortals. It was also the time when the powerhouses of the hidden world would enter once a year to search for treasures and try their luck. With Su Yu and the others' current strength, they could go in and try. What if they gained something? However, there were still many monsters in the space at the bottom of the cliff. It would be better for Su Yu and the others to gain experience than to go to the hidden world. In addition, Luo Qingtong came here in advance because she had something to do alone, so she didn't bring them. Schwa. Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian and the others disappeared in the passage between the true Spill continent and the hidden world. The hidden world was the gateway between the outer realm and the true Spill continent. It was the true Spill continent's world within a world. The thin barrier was not as difficult to break as the outer realm. As long as one's strength was above the sage realm, they could tear it apart and enter. Luo Qingtong would have been in the hidden world if it weren't for the fact that she had to go to the Northern Territory and the unforeseen events that happened in the Southern Territory. However, this delay would only be beneficial to Luo Qingtong and not detrimental. Other things aside, her strength had already risen to the Saint Lord realm. Not only that, but she also received news about Luo Jinghong. Although he wasn't sure if the person who was captured by the beast-taming King's Valley was Luo Jinghong, some news was better than no news at all. Luo Qingtong hadn't told Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi about this yet. After all, the matter had not been decided yet. If he told them too early, it would inevitably cause them to be even more disappointed. Furthermore, if that person was really Luo Jinghong, who knew what happened to him when he was chased by the beast-taming King's Valley. Before she thoroughly investigated this matter, Luo Qingtong did not intend to reveal it to Old Master Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi. He hoped that the final result would be good. Otherwise, he was afraid that Grandpa and Grandma wouldn't be able to take it. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. The group of people appeared in the hidden world and quickly rushed in the direction of the beast-taming King's Valley. Before Luo Qingtong came, she had already asked Yan Yu about the situation and terrain of the hidden world. She was not completely unfamiliar with this place. At this time, in the beast-taming King's Valley, the beast-taming King Gu Guju was furious. Bastard! A bunch of trash. Chapter 1832. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's aura was overbearing. The group of Beast Tamer Valley elders and disciples that were responsible for investigating all lowered their heads, not daring to utter a single word. They were also very depressed. They thought that this would be a simple mission. After all, the ones that died were a group of Beast Tamer Valley disciples. With such a large target, it should have been easy for them to investigate. Even if the other party destroyed the corpses, they should still have been able to leave behind some clues. But what was strange was that they only found out that Han Dong and the others had gone to the True Spill Continent's mortal world. No one thought that in the True Spill Continent's mortal world, there would be a powerhouse that could kill them. After all, Han Dong was not only a Saint Master Realm powerhouse, but also a high-level beast tamer with a monster beast by his side. Not to mention the other Beast Tamer Valley disciples. In such a situation, how could there be someone in the True Spill Continent's mortal world that could kill them? Moreover, it was said that this person had even shattered the Valley Master's divine sense. It had to be known that the Valley Master was a Saint Master Realm powerhouse. In order to shatter his divine sense, one had to be at least a Saint Emperor level powerhouse. No one would place their target in the mortal world. They thought that Han Dong and the others had died after returning to the hidden world. But no matter how much they investigated, they couldn't find anything. Hearing Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's angry voice, they all quickly apologized. "Valley Master, please forgive us." "Humph." Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's voice was icy cold. "I just learned that Han Dong and the others went out because they wanted to capture a thunder beast for Jingyu as a birthday gift." Jingyu was his daughter's name. She was the little princess of Beast Tamer Valley, the apple of his eye. In a few days, it would be her birthday banquet. Not only that, but it would also be her 16th coming-of-age ceremony. Han Dong had gone to capture a thunder beast for her. Go and investigate according to these conditions. Do not miss a single clue. I want the person who killed Han Dong to die. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju's voice was filled with killing intent. Someone had dared to kill a disciple of Beast Tamer Valley, and his own disciple at that. This enmity had to be avenged. Once he found the culprit, he would make sure that person died without a burial ground, his entire family exterminated. Yes. Everyone hurriedly responded. They heaved a sigh of relief. With the lightning beast as a condition, it was much easier to investigate. Even if he did not know the exact location, he would be able to find out where Han Dong and the others had died as long as he checked the places they had been to. At that time, he might be able to find out who killed Han Dong and the others. With that thought in mind, everyone hurriedly went to make arrangements. While the Beast Tamer King Gu Guju was raging, in the main city of the Beast Tamer King Valley, Tianfeng City. Shua. A group of people appeared not far away. This is Tianfeng City, the main city of the Beast Taming King Valley, where the sect is located. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stood side by side. She looked at the towering city in front of her. Its scale was even greater than the holy capital of the Empire of Qin and the holy capital of the Great Chu. This huge city was like a gigantic beast crawling in front of them. Among them, an extremely powerful aura soared into the sky. Clearly, there were many powerhouses inside. Moreover, he was very strong. Chapter 1833. This city had 8 gates. Luo Qingtong and the others entered from the main gate. After entering the city, they had to walk. Otherwise, the forbidden space barrier in the sky would teach them a lesson. Luo Qingtong and the others didn't want to attract attention this time, so they didn't take the spirit ship. After all, the Blackfield spirit ship was too iconic. Luo Qingtong might come here to cause trouble, so she naturally didn't want to expose her identity to avoid being traced. Yi Qianxian didn't care, but if Luo Qingtong wanted to do this, he didn't object. What's more, his sky-high flying ship was indeed a bit special. The people of True Spill Continent couldn't see anything, but those people from the Star Alliance's branch hall. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't want to be seen through for the time being, at least not now. Yi Qianxian glanced at the woman beside him. Luo Qingtong was pretending to look around with interest. However, the bloody light in her eyes flickered slightly, and the 3D diagram of the forbidden space array above her head appeared in her pupils. In an instant, she completely saw through this array. The weaknesses and flaws were all revealed in front of her. Luo Qingtong's pupil technique slightly shrank. She had already remembered the weaknesses and flaws, so she didn't need to look anymore. For Luo Qingtong, as long as she saw through the internal structure of an array, then no matter how others changed it, improved it, or advanced it, it was useless to her. She could still see through it at a glance, and she didn't need to use her pupil technique. After Luo Qingtong easily remembered the forbidden space array, she began to look at the various defenses of the surrounding city, the distribution of troops on the city walls, the array barriers, and the main energy absorption points. The blood-red light in her eyes flickered continuously. Everywhere she went, she would see through everything, no matter how big or small. But on the surface, she looked like an ordinary 16-year-old girl, curiously looking around. Evil Doctor. Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't know about Luo Qingtong's blood pupils, so they were a little surprised when they saw it. They were surprised not because Luo Qingtong had embarrassed them, but because the evil doctor was usually so domineering and evil. How could she have such a naive and romantic side? The contrast was too great, and they couldn't bear it. They felt that the evil doctor's actions were too strange. I beg you to change back. The two of them felt their hair stand on end. At this moment, Yi Qianxian glanced at them and asked, "Do you have any objections?" No. The two of them were instantly terrified. What a coward. Master's wife protecting demon mode had been activated. In the past, he would restrain himself a little, saying things like he wanted to teach the evil doctor a lesson and let him know that he could not be arrogant just because he was pampered. Master, I'll kneel to you. You're clearly saying that the evil doctor doesn't rely on favor to become arrogant, and you want her to rely on favor to become arrogant as well. We haven't said anything yet. You're insulting us. My heart is tired and I don't love. The two of them clutched their chests as they thought about it. Yi Qianxian tightened his grip on Luo Qingtong's hand. He liked Luo Qingtong no matter what she looked like. Moreover, he knew a little about Luo Qingtong's pupil technique. Looking at her, he guessed that she was looking at the defenses of the city. But, was this girl's pupil technique so powerful? She could see through everything in the world. Basically, no one in the world could do what Luo Qingtong did. Chapter 1834. However, Luo Qingtong's pupil technique didn't seem to have this problem at all. As her strength grew, her pupil technique also seemed to be getting more and more powerful. The pearl in his palm was slowly beginning to shine brightly. Haha, Yinshi, come over and take a look, there's a country bumpkin here. What a joke, he looks like a fool. Just as Yi Qianxian was faintly protecting Luo Qingtong from the crowd to prevent anyone from bumping into her, an ear-piercing voice rang out. It was filled with mockery and ridicule. Yi Qianxian's expression darkened slightly, and he immediately turned to look in the direction of the voice. His gaze was sharp, as if it contained countless saber lights and bloody swords. As far as his eyes could see, there seemed to be sharp swords and saber shadows everywhere, piercing towards the person who was mocking Luo Qingtong. It was a young girl dressed in green. At this moment, she was making fun of Luo Qingtong while raising her hand and pointing in her direction. Being pierced by Yi Qianxian's gaze, her face turned pale, and an indescribable sense of fear suddenly appeared in her heart. She couldn't help but take a step back, almost falling to the ground. Fortunately, the girl dressed in white beside her supported her. Hey, why are you glaring at me? She almost made a fool of herself in public. After shaking off the hand of the girl dressed in white, the girl dressed in green rushed towards Yi Qianxian and the others. "Do you think I've hit your sore spot?" the girl dressed in green said as she looked disdainfully at Luo Qingtong beside Yi Qianxian. "You're obviously a fool, but you don't let people talk about you. Do you think you'll become smarter if you don't talk?" She had a sharp expression on her face. At this time, Luo Qingtong had just finished analyzing half of the city's defenses. The level of the array in the main city of beast-taming King's Valley was a little high, so it was more difficult for her to analyze it. She wanted to take a break before continuing. However, when she lowered her head, she found that she was being scolded. "Fool!" Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at the girl dressed in green. Then she turned to look at the man beside her and asked silently, "Did you provoke her? How could he still attract peach blossoms like this?" In view of the tragic situation when she traveled with Yu Sihuang last time, Luo Qingtong directly changed Yi Qianxian's mask to an extremely ugly one that people wouldn't even want to look at. How could he attract troublesome peach blossoms like this? Luo Qingtong felt that it was necessary for her to make Yi Qianren ugly in the future. Although she couldn't bear to do this to the man's handsome face that could make people commit crimes. Peach blossoms. Especially her own man's. Luo Qingtong still had that innocent and romantic smile on her face, but the coldness in her eyes made Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who were standing behind Yi Qianren, shiver. The evil doctor seemed to be unhappy. "Master." They glanced at Yi Qianxian in front of them. They didn't know if they should sympathize with their master. This black pot was wronged. God knows that their master's eyes were full of the evil doctor. He even scolded them for the evil doctor. How could he have time to attract peach blossoms? The two of them looked sympathetic. Yi Qianxian's face also darkened. The veins on his forehead popped. It wasn't because of Luo Qingtong's silent question. It was because the girl dressed in green made him be misunderstood by Luo Qingtong. "Get lost." His voice was cold. The temperature around him dropped. Chapter 1835. The green-clothed girl wanted to continue mocking them, but Yi Qianxian's cold gaze and the aura around him pierced her. In an instant, her face turned pale and she took a step back. "Humph. What's so great about you?" She looked at Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian with some fear and indignation. "We want to become beast tamers. If you have the ability, then fight us here. Let's see how the Beast Tamer Valley will deal with you." Beast Tamer Valley. Beast Tamers. A strange light flashed through Luo Qingtong's eyes as she glanced at the girl. At this moment, the other white-clothed girl hurriedly said, "Yun Yan, stop fooling around. It was wrong of you to make fun of others." "I'm sorry." She nodded at Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian and apologized, "My sister was rash this time. Please don't blame her." As she spoke, she timidly glanced at Yi Qianxian. She didn't know why, but even though the man's mask was extremely ugly and disgusting, and he looked very fierce, she couldn't help but look at him. He had a charm that made people unable to take their eyes off him. Especially that figure, there was an indescribable aura within it. Seeing the white-clothed girl's gaze, Luo Qingtong looked at the man beside her with a smile that wasn't a smile. And he still said that he didn't attract any girls. This was clearly expressed in her eyes. In an instant, Yi Qianxian's face, which was originally 50 to 60% black, turned 70 to 80% black. I'll say it again. Scram. This time, Yi Qianxian used his own aura to suppress them. His body clearly didn't emit any aura fluctuations. However, it was precisely this noble and honorable aura that came from within that person's bones that caused others to have no choice but to step back with pale faces. There was simply no way for them to disobey or resist at all. The white-clothed girl pulled her younger sister back with a panicked look on her face. In an instant, Yi Qianxian pulled Luo Qingtong's hand past them. "Let's go." His voice was cold, and he didn't even look at them. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others quickly followed. Luo Qingtong still had a faint innocent and romantic smile on her face. This was the fake smile she put on when she was secretly using her eye technique to analyze something. She still had to continue analyzing the defenses of this city later, so she couldn't be bothered to remove it. She looked at the man striding forward in front of her with a faint smile in her eyes. Suddenly, she stepped forward 2 steps to catch up with him and whispered in his ear, "Why are you walking so fast? Are you feeling guilty after I hit the nail on the head? I'm not even angry yet. Why are you, a womanizer, angry?" Luo Qingtong looked at his sullen and dark face with amusement. "Shut up." Yi Qianxian looked at her with a dark expression. This woman was simply infuriating. "I'm not blind yet." What bees and butterflies did he attract? If it wasn't for the fact that this was the main city of the beast-taming King Valley, he was afraid that he would ruin her plans. That green-clothed girl just now couldn't get within 10 meters of him. "Oh, so you're saying that I'm prettier than them?" Luo Qingtong's eyes turned, and she giggled as she laid on top of him and transmitted her voice. In the eyes of others, she was delicate and pretty, leaning on him weakly. Her innocent and romantic smile didn't change at all. Yi Qianxian ignored her with a cold face. "Hey, is that right?" Luo Qingtong's hand secretly pinched his palm. Chapter 1836. Don't move. Yi Qianxian scolded her in a low voice and pinched her hands that were hiding under his sleeves. Luo Qingtong's hands were small and delicate. When he opened his fingers, they were wrapped in a circle. Luo Qingtong struggled but failed to break free. In an instant, she gritted her teeth. This man was using his strength to suppress her again. "Humph, I knew you couldn't be trusted." Luo Qingtong rolled her eyes and snorted, "Since you didn't mean it that way, you must be blind to fall in love with them. You're really attracting bees and butterflies. You still don't want to admit it." The veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead twitched. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others who were behind him heard the conversation between the two and were dumbfounded. "You're good, evil doctor. How could you explain it this way? Oh my God, you're right no matter how you turn it over. I was wrong." Feng Yu secretly transmitted a message to Bei Qing with a pained expression. "I originally thought Master was a henpecked husband because he spoiled the evil doctor too much. Now I know that if you fall in love with someone like the evil doctor, you have to be a henpecked husband." His wise and powerful master was completely under the control of the evil doctor. He couldn't fight at all. The evil doctor was really too powerful. How could he not be a henpecked husband when he met such a woman? It's better to believe that there are ghosts in this world than to believe in a man's lousy mouth. Oh. Before Luo Qingtong could finish her words, Yi Qianxian took off the mask on his face and kissed her instantly. The mask, which was as ugly as a Kunlun slave, blocked their faces and blocked the view of others. Behind them were Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others. Yi Qianxian kissed the woman in front of him fiercely and then deepened his kiss. When the kiss was over, he said in a hoarse voice, "Shut up." Yi Qianxian felt that this was the word he had said the most ever since he met Luo Qingtong. But the little woman in his arms was not afraid at all. She was truly his nemesis. Just as he was thinking, he heard Luo Qingtong mutter, "No." On what basis? Why didn't you tell me to shut up when you were kissing me? I didn't say anything wrong. Don't think that you can seduce me with your handsome face. The veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead throbbed as he raised his hand to cover her mouth. Luo Qingtong was still pretending to be a naive and romantic young woman. Seeing this, she didn't struggle. She just blinked and looked at him. Her appearance was as pure and beautiful as it could get. However, this was a witch wearing the skin of an angel. "You're beautiful." Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth and looked at her. He said word by word, "You are more beautiful than all of them. Even if I go blind in the future, I can only see you." "That's more like it." Luo Qingtong giggled. The smile in her eyes was like a demon, but the expression on her face was still pure and innocent. The two completely different temperaments mixed together, making Yi Qianxian's eyes darken. This temptress. Luo Qingtong hugged his arm at this time. "Let's go," she said with a smile. "Let's walk around and see if we can inquire about anything." To investigate Luo Jinghong's matter, they naturally had to come to the main city of Beast Taming King Valley. In fact, Luo Qingtong and the others had tried to inquire about it in other cities along the way. However, after so many years, coupled with the arrogance and despotism of Beast Taming King Valley, they had erased and kept the things they had done a secret. They didn't allow others to say anything bad about them. Therefore, Luo Qingtong and the others didn't inquire about what happened in the past. Chapter 1837. Hearing this, Yi Qianxian's eyes turned cold. He said to Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others, "Spread out and investigate. Report back to me if you have any news." He naturally went with Luo Qingtong, lest this woman suffered any losses here. After all, this was the main city of Beast Taming King Valley, the location of a first-class sect in the hidden world. Yes. Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others responded, and then their figures spread out. "Let's go." Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian also walked forward. Sky Wind City was worthy of being the main city of Beast Taming King Valley. It was very prosperous and lively. This main city accommodated all the powerhouses under the command of Beast Taming King Valley. The sound of people selling things in the city was endless. There were all kinds of things being sold, many of which Luo Qingtong had never seen before in the true Spill continent. However, Luo Qingtong wasn't very interested in these. She didn't lack anything at the moment. The only thing she wanted was to improve her strength. However, this didn't prevent Luo Qingtong from talking to these peddlers. These peddlers had been mixed in with all kinds of people for a long time, so they knew many more things than the average person. Moreover, they were easy to get in touch with. Luo Qingtong was familiar with these things. She chatted with these peddlers skillfully, and soon became one with them. She talked about all kinds of gossip, but there was no news about Beast Taming King Valley chasing someone. It wasn't just about the person that Luo Qingtong was looking for. But there was no news about this at all. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. If it wasn't for the fact that these peddlers didn't dare to speak up, then it was because the Beast Taming King's Valley's methods were too formidable. They had completely wiped away all traces of the incident and maintained their image to the outside world. Tisk, Luo Qingtong licked her lips. She hated this kind of hypocritical and dignified people and things the most. I really want to destroy it. I want to expose its dark and filthy side. Just as Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, she suddenly heard a peddler say, "By the way, have you heard about the recent events? I heard that the culprit who killed the core disciple of Beast Taming King's Valley is about to be found. I heard that the core disciple was killed when he went to look for the thunder beast for Miss Jingyu's birthday. Right now, the Beast Taming King's Valley is using the lightning beast as a lead to search everywhere. I think it won't be long before we find it," he said. "That's right." Another peddler answered casually. Beast Taming King Valley is a first-rate sect. In the entire hidden world, there are very few things that they can't investigate, right? Unless one of those clans makes a move. He raised his hand and pointed upwards as he spoke in a low voice. "That's right. But that's impossible. Another peddler said, if those families were to make a move, they wouldn't have to be so secretive. It's just a core disciple. So what if he's the Valley Master's disciple? Just as this person spoke up to hear, another person lowered his voice and said, then you don't know. It's said that the dead disciple's identity is extraordinary. Not only is he related to the Valley Master, he's also related to the Grand Elder. Oh. So it's like that. Then it's no wonder. The other peddlers all came to a sudden realization. Soon after, they began to excitedly guess who it was that killed that core disciple. Luo Qingtong listened to them talk. These people were already very familiar with her and didn't avoid her. Chapter 1838. Beast Taming King Valley's core disciple, Thunder Beast. All of this pointed to a single point. Oh. She suddenly chuckled softly. She didn't expect that the core disciple surnamed Han she had killed in the western wilderness would have such a great background. But so what? Since she had killed him, she wasn't afraid. Luo Qingtong had never been afraid of anyone in her life. But, if the other party chased after Thunder Beast, would they cause any trouble? If they noticed Truce Spill Continent, then it would be troublesome. That Thunder Beast was Su Yu's contract beast. Luo Qingtong thought and suddenly felt lucky that she hadn't brought Su Yu and the others with her this time. Otherwise, something would have happened before they even reached Skywind City. Luo Qingtong listened to them talk for a while about Beast Taming King Valley holding a birthday banquet for the Valley Master's daughter, the little princess of Beast Taming King Valley. Luo Qingtong wasn't interested in these things. After a few more words and confirming that no one knew about the dark history of Beast Taming King Valley, she immediately left. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian then strolled around Skywind City. Luo Qingtong inquired about information while Yi Qianxian watched from the side. His face was completely covered by the mask that was as ugly as a Kunlun slave, but there was a kind of aura about him that could not be blocked. That tall and slender figure poked out, and when others casually glanced at him, they had an inexplicable feeling that they couldn't move their eyes away. However, Beast Taming King Valley was preparing to hold a birthday banquet, and there were many sect powerhouses coming to congratulate them. In Skywind City, there were many eye-catching people, but no one stared at Yi Qianxian. They just thought of him as a powerhouse who came here to celebrate the birthday banquet of Beast Taming King Valley's little princess. Other than secretly guessing the origin of his sect, there was nothing else. Luo Qingtong quietly inquired about things along the way, and when she saw something novel and interesting on the road, she called out to Yi Qianxian. The atmosphere between the two of them was unusually harmonious and warm. They looked like a young couple who had come out to play. Yi Qianren looked at the young girl beside him and felt a strange feeling that was very rare to him. His cold eyes, which seemed to contain countless saber lights and blood swords, softened slightly. Yi Qianren basically wouldn't have the feeling of walking among the commoners, mixing with them and becoming one with them. He and Luo Qingtong walked in Tianfeng City, listening to Luo Qingtong and those people from all walks of life chatting. Luo Qingtong's face was sweet, and she was playing the role of an innocent and romantic young woman. That kind of sweet and cute feeling made the people around her unguarded. After they got to know each other better, they would even casually tease Yi Qianxian. When Yi Qianxian heard these words, he felt a strange feeling in his heart. Before he met Luo Qingtong, there was absolutely no one who dared to talk to him like this. Even Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who were taught by him and grew up with him, respected and revered him more than anything. They didn't dare to casually joke with him. While he was thinking, the middle-aged bearded uncle who was talking to Luo Qingtong suddenly stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. Yi Qianxian controlled the aura that was about to surge out of his body and looked at the other party. Chapter 1839. Haha, that's how it should be. You're such a blockhead. You're such a pretty girl, you have to protect her well. Otherwise, you'll cry if someone snatches her away. The bearded man winked at Yi Qianxian. Yi Qianren looked at him and suddenly curled her lips into a smile. That's right. He did have to protect her well. Yi Qianren looked at the young girl in her arms who was like a little bird, and the curve on her lips became even wider. Luo Qingtong was rarely so well-behaved and gentle. He liked the other party's teasing very much. As Yi Qianxian spoke, he lifted Luo Qingtong in a princess carry. The latter was burying her head in his arms and trying to stifle her laughter. Before she could react, he had already trapped her in his arms and strode outside. Hey, put me down first. Luo Qingtong struggled in his arms. She still wanted to find out more information. This man looked like he didn't want anyone to get close to him. How was she going to talk to him when he was hugging her like this? I'm a blockhead, I don't understand what you're talking about. Yi Qianxian glanced at her but didn't stop walking. Don't think that he didn't hear what she said to the bearded man. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't have suddenly run over to tease her. Although, he liked it quite a bit. Ahem. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but cough lightly. I was just joking. Moreover, she stole a glance at Yi Qianxian. Even if you're a blockhead, you're still the #1 divine tree in the world. Ordinary people can't compare to you. At this point, Luo Qingtong gave herself a thumbs up for her wits. It was perfect, wasn't it? Is that so? Yi Qianren looked at her with a smile that was not a smile. But I'm not interested in being the #1 divine tree in the world. I just want to be a parasol tree. Luo Qingtong's curiosity was inexplicably aroused. Why? She looked at Yi Qianxian. Because, Yi Qianxian gazed deeply at her. The phoenix perches on the wudong tree. Since she was a dazzling phoenix, then he would become the parasol tree that she was resting on. This way, no matter how she flew, she could only return to his side and never leave him. Luo Qingtong didn't understand the meaning of his words at first. After she understood, she looked at Yi Qianxian's passionate gaze. Her heart skipped a beat. This man was really breaking the rules. When did he max out his sweet nothing skill? This confession was simply a full-score critical hit. The killing power was too great. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but cover her burning cheeks. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and her lips curled up. When he looked at Yi Qianxian again, his eyes were full of evil and cunning. I also like phoenix, perch, wudong. Luo Qingtong enunciated each word clearly. Especially when she said the last 4 words, the smile on her face became more cunning, wanton, and enchanting. Yi Qianxian looked at the smile on her face. He didn't know why, but he had an inexplicable feeling that something was wrong. He felt that this woman's words had a deeper meaning. But other than the meaning that he had explained, what other meaning did she have? Yi Qianxian looked at the girl in his arms with a frown. Luo Qingtong, after saying that sentence, turned her head in an extremely good mood. She wasn't in a hurry to let Yi Qianxian put her down. Anyway, she wasn't in a hurry to find out the information. If this man wanted to hug her, she would let him. She would first analyze the defense of the surrounding city. As for the meaning of the sentence just now. Chapter 1840. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian returned to the inn when it was dark. This was the inn that Bei Qing and Feng Yu had rented, and there was a unique signal outside. As soon as Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stepped in, a waiter came up to them and led them to the backyard. Obviously, he had been ordered to do so. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian followed him to the backyard, which was a secluded area. It was an isolated area and did not have any connections with other people. Each courtyard was independent of each other and was separated by a certain distance. Master, the evil doctor. As soon as Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian stepped into the courtyard, Bei Qing and Feng Yu sensed them. A group of people flew out of the hall and knelt in front of them. Yes. Yi Qianxian looked indifferent. He and Luo Qingtong walked into the hall and sat on the main seat, looking at Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who stood up and followed them. How's the investigation going? Have you found anything? Luo Qingtong did not find any useful clues in Tianfeng City. Now it was up to Bei Qing and Feng Yu to see if they could find anything. No. The group of people lowered their heads. Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked very guilty. We've checked all the clues we can find. The people of the Beast Taming Valley did it very cleanly. It said that as long as it's someone who goes against them, they'll definitely deal with them. But after that, they'll erase all traces. They said, everyone knows that the people of the Beast Taming Valley did it, but there's no evidence. Sure enough. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She already had this feeling when she was trying to get information from them in Tianfeng City. Now, Bei Qing and Feng Yu's words confirmed her conjecture. The people of the Beast Taming Valley have a very high status in the hidden world. Basically, even the people of the same first-class sects don't want to offend them. The Beast Taming King Valley erased the evidence like this. Everyone else turned a blind eye to it. Bei Qing and Feng Yu said. Otherwise, the people of the Beast Taming Valley would not have erased all traces so cleanly. This was also the reason why Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't know where to start. They acted separately from Luo Qingtong and went to investigate and get information from the people of the Beast Taming Valley. The information they obtained was fragmented and not very detailed, not to mention the information obtained from the outside world. Without the tacit consent of the other sects, how could the Beast Taming Valley be able to cover the sky with one hand? How could the powerful and influential people in Tianfeng City not know about something as big as hunting someone down? This was obviously not normal. And what Luo Qingtong wanted to find was something that happened more than 10 years ago, so the hope was even slimmer. Too much time had passed, and all the useful clues had been erased. The only people who might know these things were the higher-ups of the Beast Taming Valley, who knew these things from the beginning to the end and gave the order. Luo Qingtong also thought of this point. Her eyes narrowed slightly. It seems that we can only enter the Beast Taming Valley to investigate. However, the Beast Taming King's Valley was a first-rate sect. How big was it? Who knew who was involved in the matter back then? It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Chapter 1841. But how could someone like that force information out of their mouths? If he were to use force, not to mention whether the other party would use this matter to threaten him, he would not be able to do anything. Yi Qianxian's body still had the hidden danger of the heavenly vein physique. It wasn't easy for him to use the heavenly fox's blood essence to extend his life for 3 years and increase the strength of his meridians, allowing him to use more strength. If he were to use force against the people of Beast Taming King Valley, what would he do if his strength exceeded his body's limit? One had to know that Beast Taming King Valley wasn't a sixth-rate sect like the Breeze Pavilion. First-rate sects were already the peak strength of the hidden world. Moreover, Beast Taming King Valley's strength was above the average first-rate sect. Pull one hair and the whole body will be affected. If the lips die, the teeth will be cold. The other first-rate sects would definitely not let them make a move against the people of Beast Taming King Valley. At that time, a group of first-rate sects would join forces and it would be equivalent to becoming the enemy of the entire hidden world. Luo Qingtong would never let Yi Qianxian take such a risk for her. Then there was only one last path left, which was to change her name and join Beast Taming King Valley. She would see if she could find any flaws and make a move against Beast Taming King Guguju and the others. The original order, the handwritten letter, and so on. It was possible that there was information about the people who were being chased. Luo Qingtong could use this to find out if the person being chased was her father Luo Jinghong. Yi Qianxian frowned but didn't say anything. According to his temperament, this matter didn't need to be so troublesome. He only needed to catch beast-taming King Gu Guzhu and the others and interrogate them. Luo Qingtong was worried about the first-rate sects joining forces, but in Yi Qianxian's eyes, he didn't care at all. Not to mention the entire Hidden World's people joining forces, even if the Star Alliance's people came here, Yi Qianxian wouldn't be afraid. It was just that his identity couldn't be hidden anymore. Yi Qianxian's eyes turned cold as he thought of those who had been searching for his whereabouts and wanted to come here. He couldn't let those people come over yet. At least for now, he couldn't let those people appear in front of Luo Qingtong. Alright, then let's sneak in. Seeing that he didn't have any objections, Luo Qingtong immediately nodded. She was just about to say something when suddenly, outside the courtyard walls, there was a sudden burst of noise. The courtyard where Luo Qingtong and the others were staying was the last one in the inn. Its location was somewhat remote, close to the street. At this moment, the sounds from the street outside could be heard faintly through the courtyard walls. Hey, look, it's the beast-taming King Valley's newly recruited disciples. How impressive. Yeah. Below the courtyard wall, a group of people were looking at the team at the end of the street with envy. The new disciples of the beast-taming King's Valley, this was a great honor. The preparatory disciples who were selected to enter the beast-taming King's Valley could basically become beast-taming masters in the future. Even if they couldn't become beast-taming masters in the end, being in a sect like the beast-taming King's Valley was far more powerful than being in other sects outside. Their status and identity couldn't be compared to the experts of ordinary sections. Experts of the same level, if the other party came from the beast-taming King's Valley, you would have to lower your head. Chapter 1842. In other sects, martial artists are martial artists, and soul cultivators are soul cultivators. But the beast tamers in beast-taming King Valley can still control demonic beasts to attack. One must know that a demonic beast is equivalent to a cultivator's help. Even a good demonic beast is far better than that. These people who are chosen to become apprentice disciples of beast-taming King Valley are really too lucky. What a pity, we don't have this life. Yes. To be chosen as a disciple, we have to go through a very strict selection test. Most importantly, we have to be tested by the aura of beast-taming King Valley to see if we can cultivate the art of beast-taming. Only those who can cultivate can be chosen as an apprentice disciple. Yes. The group sighs and is about to leave. They tried their luck before, but unfortunately, they were not chosen. The group turns around. At this moment, a figure jumps out from the courtyard wall behind them. Luo Qingtong smiles sweetly. She pats the shoulder of a young man who just turned around, smiles at him, and asks, "I wonder if you can tell me about beast-taming King Valley. I also want to become a disciple of beast-taming King Valley." Luo Qingtong is wearing a red dress, elegant and beautiful, and with a sweet smile, she looks like a harmless fairy under the moon. The young man was dumbfounded. He thought that it was a fairy under the moon who had revealed her true form. Until Luo Qingtong raises her hand and waves it in front of his face, he quickly comes back to his senses. His face turns red, and he says in a panic, Okay. He was at a loss for a while. Luo Qingtong looked at him and laughed. Boys of this age are so interesting to tease. While she is laughing, on the other side, Bei Qing and Feng Yu are standing in the middle of the courtyard, wiping their cold sweat as they peek at their master's expression. Just now, Luo Qingtong heard the discussion outside and rushed out. The group of them followed out, but they did not go out. But evil doctor, if we want to ask questions, we can be simple and rough. For example, we can drag people, beat them up, and force them to tell us. You don't need to use a honey trap. They feel that they can't withstand the overflowing cold air around their master. While Bei Qing and Feng Yu are constantly wiping their sweat, Luo Qingtong asks the young man about Beast Taming King Valley's disciple recruitment. It turns out that every year at this time, Beast Taming King Valley will recruit disciples who are suitable to cultivate the art of beast from their own territory. Of course, even if they didn't have the talent to cultivate the beast taming art, they could still be selected by the Beast Taming King Valley. But their strength and status may not be as strong as beast tamers in Beast Taming King Valley. Generally, warriors and soul personages with such talent would go to other sects to cultivate. Therefore, every time the Beast Taming King Valley recruited a disciple, they would have the aptitude to be a beast taming master. When Luo Qingtong and the others arrived, they had just missed the Beast Taming King Valley's disciple recruitment. At this moment, the group of probationary disciples had finished their selection and were preparing to leave Skywind City for the Beast Taming King's Valley's main sect. Luo Qingtong nods her head. She heard about Beast Taming King Valley's disciple recruitment in advance. She didn't expect to miss it. Chapter 1843. If that's the case, then there's going to be some trouble. Luo Qingtong had been thinking about how to sneak into the Beast Taming King Valley. Impersonating someone was definitely out of the question as it would be easy to be exposed. Luo Qingtong wasn't going to shoot and run away. She was going to stay and inquire about things. Originally, Luo Qingtong was thinking about whether she should let Yi Qianxian and the others capture someone from the Beast Taming King Valley to ask. She didn't expect to hear these people talking outside the courtyard wall when she turned around. If the Beast Taming King Valley was recruiting new disciples, there would be no problem at all. The new disciples had a certain degree of freedom. At the same time, because they didn't know anything, it would be convenient for them to inquire about information. Moreover, Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. When the new disciples arrived at the main sect, they would be selected by the higher-ups of the Beast Taming King Valley, right? This was a chance to get close to the Beast Taming King Guguju and the others. However, who would have thought that they would miss this opportunity? When Luo Qingtong's eyes were fixed, the young man who answered her also saw that her complexion was not right. He immediately said, "Actually, it doesn't matter." He comforted Luo Qingtong. At this time next year, the Beast Taming King Valley will be recruiting new disciples. You can come again at that time, right? By the way, miss, what's your name and where do you live? As he spoke, he gathered his courage and raised his hand to put it on Luo Qingtong's shoulder. In an instant, Bei Qing and Feng Yu in the courtyard felt a burst of murderous aura around them. Then with a swish, Yi Qianxian, who was originally standing in front of them with his hands behind his back, flashed and disappeared in front of them. Oh my God, angry, angry. Master is angry. The group of people covered their eyes with their hands, not daring to look at the scene in front of them. Will Master and the evil doctor fight? It shouldn't be, right? The group of people were curious and expectant, but also a little worried. If their master were to really fight with the evil doctor, who would they help? If they helped Master, what if the evil doctor came to settle accounts? Master was a wife slave. If they helped the evil doctor, then what about Master? What a dilemma. While everyone's hearts were in a mess, Yi Qianxian's figure had already appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. He raised his hand and held her waist. Time to go back. His expression was indifferent. The ugly face of a Kunlun slave was taken off in an instant. In an instant, the face in front of her couldn't be described with words that couldn't describe the face in front of him. Yi Qianxian had blocked the boy's attempt to grab Luo Qingtong. He was about to get angry. However, when he raised his head and saw the face in front of him, he immediately fled. It turned out that the beauty was already taken. Moreover, he was such a handsome man with an extraordinary aura. The young man still had lingering fears from the look he had just exchanged with Yi Qianxian. That gaze was too cold, too cold, too cold. Too austere. He covered his pale face and his violently beating heart and hurriedly left. After Yi Qianxian coldly glared at the boy, he turned his head and looked down at the girl in front of him. "You were almost taken advantage of just now, do you know?" he asked coldly in a cold voice. "How could I take advantage of you like this?" Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile and raised her hand to put it on his shoulder. She had seen the boy's movements just now, so she naturally wouldn't let him touch her. Unexpectedly, this man couldn't help but come out and childishly take off the mask on his face. Luo Qingtong stifled a laugh in her heart. Chapter 1844. Dirty. His voice was cold as he grabbed Luo Qingtong's hand and wiped it clean from her palm to the back of her hand. This woman had just used this hand to touch that young man. Pfft, ha! Seeing his actions, Luo Qingtong could no longer hold back the laughter in her heart. She laughed out loud. Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who were in the courtyard, had peeked at Yi Qianxian grabbing Luo Qingtong's hand and thought that he was really going to hit her. They were debating whether they should risk their lives to block him, but they realized that they were thinking too much. Master was going to hit the evil doctor? That was impossible. The group of people looked at Yi Qianxian wiping Luo Qingtong's hands with black lines on their foreheads. Then, the two of them turned around and came back together. Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. They always felt that the jealous and murderous master just now was just an illusion. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong was thinking of a way to sneak into the group of new disciples. She definitely couldn't wait for a year. Moreover, she didn't want to wait. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly and the light in her eyes flickered slightly. All kinds of thoughts were running through her mind. All of a sudden, her gaze landed on Yi Qianming. The latter had just finished wiping her hands and the coldness and darkness on his face had not completely disappeared. He just pulled her straight into the hall. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's delicate voice rang out. "Qianren, pa." Bei Qing, who was following behind the two of them, slipped and almost fell down the stairs. Fortunately, Feng Yu, who was next to him, supported him. However, Feng Yu also had a look of horror on his face and was only slightly steadier than him. Yi Qianxian suddenly stopped and turned to look at Luo Qingtong. What was this woman trying to do? When Yi Qianxian heard Luo Qingtong's screams, he felt terrible. As long as this woman didn't play by the rules, it wasn't a good time. The last time she called him that, she wanted him to go to the southern mountain range. What was she trying to do now? After Luo Qingtong called out, she quickly snuggled into Yi Qianxian's arms. She wrapped her arms around his neck with a smile and said, "Qianren, didn't you say that I'm the most beautiful, the best, and that you love me the most?" Putting aside what Yi Qianxian was thinking, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others ran away as soon as they heard Luo Qingtong's words. It was better for them not to stand in the way of their master's public display of affection. Moreover, there were some things that they couldn't listen to. There were some scenes that they could not see. Not to mention that their own master's eyes were already looking in their direction. When the group of people saw Yi Qianren's cold gaze, they ran away quickly and disappeared without a trace in a short while. "Tell me, what are you trying to do?" Yi Qianxian turned his head and looked at the girl in front of him. He couldn't help but rub his forehead. Ahem. Luo Qingtong looked at him and coughed softly. Then, her beautiful eyes looked left and right and said, "That, the beast-taming King Valley has already recruited all the new disciples?" Yi Qianxian softly grunted. He didn't know why, but he started to have a bad premonition. So if you want to sneak in, you have to show off your beast-taming talent. Chapter 1845. As for Snowball, because it was with Chu Lingfeng, it also disappeared with him. Luo Qingtong didn't have a single contracted beast by her side. Moreover, even if she did, her contract method was special. It was a heaven and earth contract, so she couldn't expose herself in front of the people of beast-taming King's Valley. After thinking about it, she could only let Yi Qianxian turn into silver. Then the two of them would pretend to be a beast-tamer and a contracted beast and enter beast-taming King's Valley. That would be the best. Hearing this, Yi Qianxian's face turned black. In the end, Yi Qianxian agreed to Luo Qingtong's request. This was indeed the best and most convenient method. It was just that his sacrifice was greater. Yi Qianxian's face was cold as he nestled in Luo Qingtong's arms. The little silver fox's body was furry, and its fur was smooth and shiny. It looked indescribably cute. Let's go intercept them. Luo Qingtong had already called Bei Qing and Wind Feather over. After telling them her plan, the group of people rushed out of Wind City. Beast-taming King's Valley's new disciple recruitment had already been completed. At this time, deliberately showing off one's talent was very unwise. It was easy to be suspected of having impure motives. Even if Luo Qingtong wanted to enter beast-taming King's Valley, she wouldn't use this method. She would guarantee that nothing would go wrong, and the people of beast-taming King's Valley wouldn't suspect anything. Let's go. The group rushed out of Wind City. And in a canyon outside Tianfeng City, a group of people was walking in it. This was the group of newly recruited disciples of beast-taming King's Valley. There were dozens of carriages in this group, and a group of newly recruited apprentice disciples with the talent of beast-taming sat in them. Outside the carriages was a group of beast-taming King's Valley disciples and elders who were ordered to go down the mountain to escort them. The group of people's expressions were very relaxed. Beast-taming King's Valley was famous, and this was the main city of Wind City. There was no one who would dare to do anything to them. Every time the disciples and elders went down the mountain, it was similar to relaxing. However, something unexpected seemed to have happened this time. Bang! The group had just walked out of the canyon when they heard the sounds of fighting coming from outside. In an instant, everyone from the beast-taming King's Valley turned solemn. Let's go take a look. One of the leading elders said as he led his group towards the source of the sound. The others stayed behind to guard the convoy. Ah! In front of a wide open space, a young girl in red was being chased. When the people from beast-taming King's Valley arrived, she was already beaten to the ground, her face filled with despair. Right at this moment, whoosh! Suddenly, the silver fox leapt out of her arms and ran towards the men in black that were chasing her. Ha! When the people from beast-taming King's Valley saw that they were being chased, they were prepared to leave. He didn't expect to see such a scene. The eyes of the leading elder suddenly lit up. Is this little silver fox a demon beast? This young girl can control it to fight. He looked at the young girl who was surrounded by a group of black-clothed men, and his eyes flashed. It was common knowledge that demon beasts wouldn't listen to the orders of humans. If this little silver fox was just an ordinary pet, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it was a demon beast. Then wouldn't its master be a beast-taming master? Chapter 1846. If that was the case, then the opponent must have a strong beast-taming talent. With that thought in mind, the captain waved his hand fiercely. Go, save her. When the disciples of beast-taming King's Valley saw the silver fox move, they knew that the elder would make such an arrangement. Immediately, they rushed towards the black-clothed men. It's the disciples of beast-taming King's Valley. The black-clothed men were prepared to deal with the silver fox, but they didn't expect the disciples of beast-taming King's Valley to suddenly rush towards them. Their faces turned cold, and they didn't dare to stay any longer. they quickly turned around and ran. In Bao. The young girl who was luckily saved quickly hugged the silver fox. Then, she looked at the disciples of beast taming King's Valley with a face full of fear. This young girl was naturally Luo Qingtong. The group of black-clothed men just now were Bei Qing and the others in disguise. The group of people had come to the front of the valley in advance to wait for the new disciples of beast taming King's Valley. They wanted to show them that Luo Qingtong could tame beasts. And this time, the mission was completed perfectly. Hello, thank you. Luo Qingtong looked timidly at the disciples of beast taming King's Valley and thanked them. She was currently playing the role of a naive and romantic young girl. It was convenient for her to move around in beast taming King's Valley. Naturally, she had to act as pure and innocent as possible. Bei Qing and the others, who had successfully retreated from the shadows, saw this scene and their lips twitched. After this incident, they finally understood how good the evil doctor's acting skills were. It was as if he could pull off any act with ease, without the slightest flaw. How in the world did she practice? But how could they know that Luo Qingtong had been hunted down countless times in her past life? She didn't know how to disguise herself and had died countless times. Sometimes, when she was close to a dead end, she relied on her strong acting skills and disguise to forcefully deceive the enemy. She had brushed shoulders with the enemy several times and escaped with her life. This silver fox is yours. The elder looked at Luo Qingtong and asked. Yes. Luo Qingtong felt uneasy under his gaze. She hugged the silver fox tighter, and her body trembled. She looked scared. Yi Qianxian was held in her arms. Even though he knew that this woman was pretending, he couldn't help but feel a little distressed. Because of this heartache, it turned its head and licked the girl's cheek. This time, the leading elder no longer had any doubts. Who are you? What's his name? Why are you being hunted down? He asked with a gentle expression. Luo Qingtong was about to speak. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind. It's you, idiot. That voice was filled with surprise, anger, and disdain. Luo Qingtong looked up and saw a young girl poking her head out of one of the carriages. When she saw that it was Luo Qingtong, she immediately shouted. This young girl was none other than the young girl in green that Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian had met when they were strolling around Tianfeng City. Sitting beside her was the white-clothed girl. Yun Yan. She tugged at the young girl in green's clothes. After the latter shouted, she realized that she was in the wrong place. She immediately shut her mouth and looked at Luo Qingtong with even more anger. Chapter 1847. When Luo Qingtong saw them, she raised her eyebrows. She didn't expect to meet these two here. But since they spoke, it saved her a lot of trouble. At least with them here, the people of the beast taming valley wouldn't be too suspicious of her background. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she quickly changed the story she had made up in her mind. My name is Night Eye. She looked at the girl in green timidly and said, I'm not an idiot. Pfft, and you say you're not an idiot. The young girl in green had a sharp expression and sneered at Luo Qingtong in disdain. If she wasn't an idiot, what was she? But she didn't expect her to be the one being chased. The man beside her was also not here. Did he die in the chase? Thinking about it, Yun Yan's heart was gloating. Luo Qingtong looked at her and thought, did this silly girl know that everything she said was to help her dispel the suspicions of the people of the beast taming valley? The more she said, the less suspicious the people of the beast taming valley would be of her. Originally, her background was unknown. But now that she had cleared it up, it was no longer a problem. She helped her so much that Luo Qingtong felt that she couldn't repay her. Sure enough, after hearing Yun Yan's words, the doubts in the eyes of the leading elder towards Luo Qingtong disappeared. He looked at Yun Yan and Yun Shi and asked, "Do you know her?" "No, we don't." Before Yun Yan and Yun Shi could speak, Luo Qingtong suddenly opened her mouth. She looked at Yun Yan and Yun Shi angrily, then pursed her lips and bowed to the leading elder. She said, "Thank you for helping me. Goodbye." She turned around and left. She didn't give Yun Yan and Yun Shi a chance to speak. Seeing this, Yun Yan and Yun Shi were stunned. The two of them didn't know Luo Qingtong, but for some reason, after she spoke and left, it gave them the feeling that they knew each other. They wanted to say something, but they didn't know what to say. Say that they didn't know Luo Qingtong. But Luo Qingtong didn't say that she knew them. While the two of them were conflicted, the leading elder's suspicions towards Luo Qingtong were more or less dispelled. Although he didn't know everything about her background. But since she was acquainted with a new disciple, he could slowly investigate in the future. She could control beasts and they couldn't let her go. Thinking of this, he hurriedly said, "Hey, wait, Miss Tong, you were just hunted down. If you leave now, you might encounter danger again. Why don't you return to the beast-taming valley first? By the way, how did you make this little silver fox listen to you?" The leading elder calmly. What he said earlier could easily make people lose their vigilance, and unknowingly, they would say the answer he wanted. Sure enough, after hearing his words, Luo Qingtong's face showed a trace of confusion. She first nodded, then shook her head. "I don't know. Silver Fox and I grew up together and it has always listened to me." Luo Qingtong displayed her naive and romantic personality to the extreme. Her words were ignorant and innocent. When it came to beast taming, the more she said, the more mistakes she would make. She might as well not say anything. Let these people fill in the blanks themselves. Oh. Chapter 1848. If that was the case, then the other party was most likely a natural beast tamer. That would be even more powerful than a natural beast tamer. Thinking about it, a smile appeared on his face. "Then follow me back to the Beast Tamer King Valley. I will inform your family to pick you up." "I have no family." Hearing his words, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. She took the opportunity to explain her experience and cut off the other party's questioning. "They're all dead." Saying this, she lowered her head, looking very sad. "Everyone, including Qian, they're all dead." "Qian, what kind of title was that?" Yi Qianxian lay in her arms, not knowing what to say. This woman was quite good at cursing him to death. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but bite the flesh on the back of her hand and grind his teeth. Luo Qingtong lowered her head and pinched his little paw, telling him to stop messing around. So ticklish. She was building up her emotions and acting. Could this man not be a hindrance? Was it fun to tear down the stage? What if she accidentally laughed out loud? The two of them were playing tricks in private, but the leading elder was completely unaware. Hearing that Luo Qingtong's family was dead, he immediately nodded and said to her, "Miss, my condolences. If you're willing, you can stay in the Beast Tamer King Valley in the future and become a disciple of the Beast Tamer King Valley." This leading elder originally wanted to recruit Luo Qingtong into the Beast Tamer King Valley. Now that he heard that her family was dead, he had no more worries. As for the enemies she might offend. In the hidden world, who would dare to provoke the Beast Tamer King Valley? Even the Star Soul Sub-Palace had to give them some face, not to mention others. "Okay. Thank you, Elder. But..." As Luo Qingtong spoke, she looked at Yun Yan and Yun Shi timidly. Then, she quickly lowered her head. "I'm afraid that some people won't like me going in." Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed coldly. Yun Yan and Yun Yan were a potential threat. She had to get rid of them so that they could no longer threaten her. Their last resort was to make sure that no one from Beast Taming King's Valley would believe them. Hearing this, the elder glanced at Yun Yan. The latter also felt suffocated by Luo Qingtong's gaze. Why is this idiot looking at me like that? If it weren't for the fact that this wasn't the right place, Yun Yan would have loudly questioned Luo Qingtong. At this moment, she was glaring fiercely at Luo Qingtong. The so-called godly assist was nothing more than this, wasn't it? The leading elder saw the look in her eyes and immediately snorted coldly. It's fine. He's just a new disciple. He can't do anything to you. You don't have to worry about it. Hearing his words, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. Even if the two sisters went to the upper echelons of the Beast Taming King Valley, no one would listen to them. Crisis averted. After quietly getting rid of Yun Yan and Yun Yan, Luo Qingtong sat on the carriage that the Beast Taming King's Valley's people were escorting the new disciples to the Beast Taming King's Valley. Just like this, Luo Qingtong easily sneaked into the Beast Taming King's Valley. Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who were hiding in the shadows, were stunned. Oh my god, the evil doctor is simply amazing. He was completely playing with people's hearts in the palm of his hand. First, he used Yun Yan and Yun Yan to dispel the leading elder's suspicions. Then, he used the leading elder to get rid of Yun Yan and Yun Yan's hidden dangers. No one would believe anything they said. Chapter 1849. Actually, I think, with the evil doctor's scheming skills, Master doesn't need to worry about her being bullied over there. As long as we're here, we can fight whoever comes. The evil doctor can deal with everything else by herself. Bei Qing said, clenching his fists. He really wanted to go back there. At that time, he would ruthlessly teach a lesson to those who dared to curse his master behind his back. Back and forth. Let's see if they still dare to play tricks behind his back. Humph. If it weren't for Master's strength, those people wouldn't even be able to cause a ripple in the water. Thinking that such people dared to diss his master, he felt a burst of anger in his heart. The evil doctor's scheming skills were more than enough to deal with those people's arrows in the dark. It would be no problem for them to block the spears in the open. What do you know? Feng Yu rolled her eyes at him. The evil doctor still needs to grow. With Master's status, once the evil doctor's existence was exposed, there would be no peace. At that time, it would be impossible to guard against all kinds of open and hidden attacks. How could the evil doctor cultivate and improve her strength in peace? The evil doctor's talent was unparalleled and monstrous. She wasn't any weaker than Master. If such talent and strength were not allowed to grow properly, it would be the end of the evil doctor. How could Master do that? If it wasn't to give the evil doctor an undisturbed cultivation environment, why would Master bother to hide the evil doctor's identity and the location of True Spill Continent? He didn't want those people to disturb the evil doctor. This silly husky thought that Master was afraid that he couldn't protect the evil doctor and would let her be bullied. He didn't know what Master was thinking. A phoenix that laughs proudly in the 9 heavens or a canary in a cage, which do you want? Master wants the evil doctor to be on par with him. He wants the evil doctor to stand proudly by his side. She doesn't want to be a canary in a cage that he protects. Feng Yu patted Bei Qing's head as she spoke. In the future, don't say such things in front of Master. Otherwise, if you get beaten up, I won't save you. Bei Qing touched her head and was silent for a moment. Then she said gloomily, Feng Yu, are you looking down on my intelligence? No, you're overthinking it. Feng Yu patted him on the shoulder and said earnestly, how is that possible? Do you even have an IQ? Before he could finish his sentence, Bei Qing's fist came flying towards him. Don't run. F***ck. Luo Qingtong and the others arrived at the beast-taming King's Valley in the afternoon of the second day. After passing through layers upon layers of formations, they entered the huge valley at the heart of the mountain range. Luo Qingtong sat upright in the carriage and looked outside at the layers of light that were opening like a heavenly curtain. Her eyes narrowed slightly. The beast-taming King Valley was stronger than she had imagined. There were layers upon layers of formations. Even a holy venerate would not be able to easily enter and exit them. If she had decided to sneak in before, she was afraid that she would have been blocked outside the door and would not be able to enter. After all, with so many formations, it would take a long time to analyze them. She would only alarm the people of the beast-taming King Valley if she tried to force her way in. It was best to enter as an apprentice. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a bloody light. Every time she passed by a layer of formations, she would imprint the model of that layer into her eyes. She would slowly analyze it later. She looked around curiously. Chapter 1850. What a country bumpkin, just like an idiot. I don't know why the elder in charge recruited her. Isn't it just because she has an obedient beast? Her voice was extremely loud, and she even deliberately glanced at Luo Qingtong. She was obviously saying it for Luo Qingtong to hear. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to ignore her. She was just a clown. If she didn't come to beast-taming King Valley to investigate, she wouldn't have interacted with her at all. Luo Qingtong didn't want to interact with people like her. After all, if a dog barked at a person, there was no need for a person to bark back. But when she heard the word beast, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed coldly and her face turned cold. Through the curtains of her own carriage, she glanced at Yun Yan's carriage and fixed her gaze on Yun Yan. What are you looking at? Yun Yan had been paying attention to Luo Qingtong's movements. She purposely said it for Luo Qingtong to hear. She pursed her lips and looked at Luo Qingtong. She raised her head and said coldly, "Let me tell you, don't think that you're amazing just because you deliberately played tricks to enter beast-taming King Valley. Isn't it just an obedient beast? Whether or not you can master the art of beast-taming is still unknown." Humph. She coldly snorted and looked at Luo Qingtong. On the way to beast-taming King Valley, Yun Yan felt that something was wrong. The timing of Luo Qingtong's appearance was too coincidental. They had just left the city and she was chasing after them. Who would believe that she was on their way? Yun Yan didn't think that Luo Qingtong had snuck into beast-taming King Valley. She only thought that after they met on the street that day, she heard that they wanted to master the art of beast-taming and wanted to become a beast-tamer herself. But the new disciple recruitment had already ended, so she purposely blocked their path and put on a show. She wanted to take the opportunity to enter beast-taming King Valley and become a beast-tamer. That must be it. He was really too shameless. Thinking of this, Yun Yan looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain. What she didn't know was that with her powerful imagination, she had guessed part of the truth. The chase was a play directed by Luo Qingtong, all for the sake of entering the beast-taming King Valley. However, it wasn't for the sake of becoming a beast-tamer. It was for something else. Luo Qingtong stared at Yun Yan for a moment before turning her head away. The second time. She narrowed her eyes. The light in her eyes flickered coldly. The other party had called Yi Qianxian a beast twice. If she didn't make a move, there would always be mad dogs barking and biting people. Luo Qingtong's eyes were extremely cold. Shwa. The caravan continued to move forward. The array formations in front of them became more and more advanced and powerful. When the last layer of the defensive array was activated, the elder in charge of the team told them to get out of the car. "All right, this is the final barrier of the beast-taming King Valley. All of you, follow me closely. don't go the wrong way. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you if you get caught in the array. The elder in charge of the team had a very serious expression. This array was the final barrier of the beast-taming King Valley. Naturally, it was different from the arrays outside. It was very particular about the order of entry. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She looked at the array in front of her. Chapter 1851. More importantly, these arrays revolved around this one to form a whole. To be more precise, the array outside the beast-taming valley was a chain of arrays. And the most important main array was this final barrier array. Such an array was naturally powerful when stacked together. But at the same time, if the main array was damaged, the other arrays would also be weakened or even lose their effectiveness. As Luo Qingtong analyzed the situation, she followed the leading elder inside. Can position, heaven position, earth branch. The elder leading the team was very careful with every step he took. Luo Qingtong's pupil sorcery flashed as she analyzed the array according to the elder's steps. To her, it was as if someone had provided her with a formula to solve a problem. She just had to apply it. However, with Luo Qingtong's current strength, even if she succeeded in deciphering the array, she would not be able to fully control it. Everyone, follow closely. Every time the captain took a step forward, he warned everyone again. All the apprentices hid their expressions and followed behind him seriously. No one wanted to go the wrong way and test the power of this array. Humph. That woman is still looking around. If she goes the wrong way, let's see how she dies. By now, Yun Yan had already put away the expression on her face. She followed closely behind the leading elder. She looked up and saw Luo Qingtong analyzing the array and sneered. That's enough. Yun Shi, who was beside her, pinched her and pulled her back to reality. Don't always pick on others. She's already very pitiful that she's being hunted down. Her family is already dead. Why are you always picking on others? Wasn't it just a scare on the street? You were the one who said that she was an idiot first. How many times have I said that to you? Don't be so careless. It's not good for you to talk about others like that. Before Yun Shi could finish speaking, Yun Yan interrupted her impatiently. That's enough. Do I need you to lecture me? Who do you think you are? If I'm happy, I'll call you sister. If I'm not happy, you're worse than my servant. Your mother is a haggard old woman. She should have been removed from the court a long time ago. Know your place. As she spoke, she snorted coldly and walked forward, completely ignoring Yun Shi. The latter stood there alone, looking somewhat pitiful. Luo Qingtong glanced at her. It seemed that it was going to be another good play where the legitimate daughter was in dire straits and the concubine took over the nest. But this matter had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong. She had no intention of meddling in other people's business. However, she had to teach Yun Yan a lesson. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she stared at Yun Yan's back. Without a sound, a ray of light shot out from her fingertips. In the blink of an eye, the positions of the surrounding formations quietly rotated under Luo Qingtong's control. Luo Qingtong had already grasped some of the functions of this large array from her analysis just now. She couldn't completely control the array, but she could still change a few positions in the array. Like now, swoosh. As Yun Yan followed the leading elder's footsteps, she suddenly stepped on empty air. Ah! The array around her suddenly activated. In an instant, Yun Yan fell into an independent space within the array. Chapter 1852. 5 Elemental Lightning Fire. Countless bolts of lightning and fire blasted towards Yun Yan from all directions. Ah! Save me. Seeing the attacks coming at her, Yunyan's face turned pale. She tried her best to escape, but the bolts of lightning and fire weren't something she could escape from. Yunyan did not have the time to run. In an instant, the first attack landed on her body. Ah! Yunyan's screams were unusually shrill. Outside, when she stepped on air, the leader of the elders immediately felt that something was wrong and hurriedly turned around to save her. However, he didn't manage to catch anything. Not only that, but because he stepped on the wrong spot, the leader triggered the entire array's attack system. It should be known that Luo Qingtong had only changed a part of her position, causing Yunyan to fall into an independent space attack. As long as the others stood in the right spot, they would be fine. However, the leader stepped on the wrong spot. It wasn't the spot that Luo Qingtong adjusted, but the spot that would trigger the entire array's attack. In an instant, the entire array was triggered. Oh no! Damn it! After missing a step, the leading elder suddenly reacted. Then, his face was filled with shock, anger, and regret. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have tried to save Yunyan. This bastard! I told you not to take the wrong step. You can't take the wrong step. But she stepped on the wrong spot. The leading elder's face was extremely gloomy and angry. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the terrifying attacks coming from all directions. The elder leading the team had actually taken the wrong path. Luo Qingtong's hand glowed as she prepared to attack. At this moment, boom! The entire array shook violently in an instant, and then all the aura disappeared in an instant. Everyone appeared outside the beast-taming valley. The aura of the array had completely disappeared. What's going on? A man who looked like an elder walked out from the beast-taming valley. Did you take the wrong path? He looked at the elder leading the team. The latter had yet to fully recover from the fear of the activation of the formation. Hearing this, he only nodded at him without saying anything. Seeing this, the elder immediately shook his head and said, "Consider yourselves lucky." He said, "We just received news from the Valley Master that Miss Jingyu's birthday banquet is about to begin. In the next few days, the beast-taming King Valley will open its gates to welcome guests from all over the world. Otherwise, if you activate the formation like this, I'm afraid you'll die inside." Now that the group had triggered the formation, they would probably die before they could even know and close the formation. He was really lucky. The leading elder also knew the consequences of this, and his expression turned even uglier. The surrounding apprentice disciples finally regained their senses. When they thought about how they were almost killed in the Great Array, their faces turned pale. As for Luo Qingtong, when the array formation disappeared, she quickly retracted the light that lingered on her finger. One had to know that it was best for the array formation to be closed by itself. Otherwise, if Luo Qingtong made a move and left some traces on the array, it would be troublesome. After all, it was the entire array formation that would be triggered. Luo Qingtong wasn't worried about anything else. She was only afraid that the people from the beast-taming valley had some special methods to investigate. Chapter 1853. At this moment, after sending off the elder who had come to investigate, the leading elder turned around with a furious expression. He walked in front of Yunyan. When the array was closed, the latter was thrown out by the independent space of lightning and fire. She was now lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Elder, seeing the angry figure of the leading elder, Yunyan struggled to get up from the ground. Before she could finish her sentence, the elder in charge slapped her across the face and threw her out of the room. Bastard! If you want to die, then die. Don't drag us down with you. Yunyan was already heavily injured in the space of lightning and fire. After being slapped, she fell to the ground and vomited blood. Elder, Please believe me. I didn't. Yun Yan felt an unspeakable grievance in her heart. She was clearly following the leading elder's footsteps. She definitely did not make a mistake. What was going on? How did she trigger the array? Yun Yan felt wronged, but the leading elder was too lazy to care about her. You're still trying to deny it. Unreasonable. After saying that, he turned around and left. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would slap Yun Yan to death. Along the way, she was the most arrogant demon. If not for that, she would not have made a mistake and triggered the array. Now, she was still stubborn and would not admit it even if she was beaten to death. Such a disciple would be useless even if he taught her in the future. He had to report this to the sect. After the leading elder left, the group of apprentices looked at Yun Yan with an unfriendly expression. This woman almost got them killed. Yun Yan had been very arrogant along the way, and they were too lazy to argue with her. Who would have thought that she would make a mistake in the array and would not repent? This woman was too hateful. The group of apprentices had just escaped from death and were still in shock. They looked at Yun Yan with anger. It was obvious that Yun Yan's days in the beast-taming King Valley would not be easy. If she hid her aura and kept her tail between her legs, it would be fine. But if she was still as arrogant as before, she would suffer. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She did not pay attention to Yun Yan and started to observe the surroundings. The entire beast-taming King's Valley was hidden in a valley surrounded by mountains. It was said to be a mountain valley. In reality, this valley was forcibly dug out from the surrounding mountain peaks by someone. The mountain peaks on all sides were as straight as swords. The side closest to the beast-taming King Valley was a perfectly straight cliff that was as smooth as a mirror, enclosing the entire valley in layers. Only the area where Luo Qingtong and the others were located had a gap for people to pass through. As for the other areas, combined with the formation outside the beast-taming King's Valley, it was impossible for anyone to approach. Even if the formation around the beast-taming King Valley was dispelled, the other areas were still extremely difficult to cross. The people from the beast-taming King's Valley really knew how to choose a place to build their sect. However, he must have done this because he was afraid that someone would come looking for trouble, right? Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. It would be best if the other party did not let her know that the person they had hunted down back then was Luo Jinghong. Otherwise, they would have to repay this debt. After the elder left, a disciple from the beast-taming King Valley came to receive them. Chapter 1854. The beast-taming King Valley disciple who came to receive them told them that because of the birthday banquet, the beast-taming King Valley was very busy and temporarily had no time to arrange their training and whereabouts. He told them to wait until the birthday banquet was over before making arrangements. The group of apprentice disciples all nodded in agreement. Luo Qingtong didn't care. She came here this time not to become a beast-taming master, but to be able to come in and investigate things. The beast-taming King Valley's arrangement was exactly what she wanted. Without those messy things to disturb her. What Luo Qingtong did the most every day was to walk around with Yi Qianxian in her arms. While analyzing the defenses in the beast-taming King Valley, she also secretly inquired about the matters of the beast-taming King Valley. Especially the matters of those who were being hunted down and some of the higher-ups. Needless to say, after a few days, she really did inquire about some things. In the beast-taming King Valley, there is a book dedicated to recording such secret matters. All kinds of major events in the beast-taming King Valley will be recorded in it. In the room, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Beside her sat a black-haired man in silver clothes. The latter's robe was wide, and the lapel was slightly opened, revealing a strong and muscular chest inside. Every time Yi Qianxian was in the room, he would change back to his human form. The room that Luo Qingtong was staying in had already been set up with layers of array formations. No one could barge in casually. As long as someone came, they would immediately trigger the illusion formation and the maze. Even if the higher-ups of the beast-taming King Valley came, they would unknowingly be delayed for a while. This little bit of time was enough for Yi Qianxian to change back into a little fox again. At this moment, he was holding a handkerchief in his hand, rubbing Luo Qingtong's wet hair. Luo Qingtong was half lying on his knee, her black hair like a waterfall, so scattered, mixed with Yi Qianxian's scattered hair. This was originally a very beautiful and romantic thing, but because of a certain man's clumsy movements, Luo Qingtong had to stop halfway and hurriedly stopped him. Hey, wait, you pulled my hair. Luo Qingtong hurriedly raised her hand to protect her head. Was this man rubbing her hair or pulling her hair for her? It wouldn't be long before she became bald. Luo Qingtong's face darkened as she looked at her hair. Because of Yi Qianren's rubbing, her hair was completely mixed with his and it looked like a mess. Oh my God, she was wrong. She shouldn't have ordered this man to do things. She wanted to enjoy the service of a dignified underworld supremacy. My God, how long will it take to untie the corner of Luo's eyes? And Yi Qianxian's Luo's face. King Valley looked Yi Qianxian's. He had never served anyone like this before, so he naturally didn't know the technique. At this time, the two people's hair were all tangled together, so they could only slowly find the source, separating this mess bit by bit. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong had blood eyes, otherwise, this mess would be cut with scissors. There was no other way. Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian searched there. Suddenly, she burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Yi Qianxian looked at her with a dark face. I'm laughing at you. Chapter 1855. Ha ha ha. She couldn't help but laugh as she fell onto the bed. The two people's hair tangled together, pulling Yi Qianxian's figure involuntarily falling onto the bed. In order to avoid pressing on Luo Qingtong, Yi Qianxian raised his hand to support himself on the edge of the bed. The man's tall and strong figure directly covered Luo Qingtong's slender figure under his body. Yi Qianxian coldly snorted and turned his face away. However, just as he turned his head, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and held him in place. The girl lying on her back below him smiled with a devilish and enchanting face. Do you know that tying hair signifies lovesickness? Luo Qingtong looked at him with a beaming face, then raised her hand to point at the tangled mess between the two of them and laughed. You tied so much hair for me. If I didn't know your temperament, I would have thought that you did it on purpose. Tying hair together, sharing the same white hair. This man probably didn't think of this at all. Luo Qingtong laughed at him when she thought of it. Tying hair. Yi Qianxian looked at his and Luo Qingtong's tangled hair. There was such a meaning. Tying hair to soothe lovesickness. He looked at the girl below who was laughing more and more vigorously, raised his eyebrows, and leaned over to kiss her. Then take it that I did it on purpose. Tying hair to soothe lovesickness, sharing the same white hair. He liked this meaning very much. After knowing that there was such a book in the beast-taming King's Valley, Luo Qingtong began to try to inquire about the whereabouts of this book. However, this already involved the internal secrets of the beast-taming King's Valley, so it wasn't so easy to inquire about. Low-level people simply had no way to come into contact with this kind of thing. Even if their level was slightly higher, they would only know that there was such a thing. As for the specific location, other than the core members of the beast-taming King's Valley, no one else would know. After trying to inquire about it, Luo Qingtong quickly put down her thoughts. Looks like I'll have to wait until after the birthday party. Luo Qingtong carried Yi Qianxian on the way back. After the birthday banquet, these apprentice disciples would be arranged. At that time, he would see if he could get close to the higher-ups. As long as she could get close to those people, Luo Qingtong would have a way to get the information she wanted. What he was afraid of was that he wouldn't even be able to touch it. If that was the case, how long would it take to find out the truth? Luo Qingtong couldn't wait that long. After the eruption of the heaven and earth spirit qi in the land of the deceased immortals, the immortal Jade Bone's aura would weaken in at least 1 to 2 months. She still wanted to go in and improve her strength. Moreover, she still had the map that she had obtained from the Saint Monarch's tomb. She had to go in and take a look. The matter of beast taming King Valley couldn't be delayed for too long. Roar! Yi Qianxian, who was in her arms, looked indifferent. He wasn't worried that Luo Qingtong wouldn't be able to find out the news. Even if she couldn't find out, so what? After Luo Qingtong entered the land of the deceased immortals and improved her strength, he would directly catch the beast-taming king, Gu Guzhu, and interrogate him about this matter. After all, at that time, he could already take Luo Qingtong away. It didn't matter even if his identity was exposed. But now, he couldn't. Well, I know, I'm not in a hurry. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.